Hey everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Ranieri, and today's guest is the head of marketing for LSPACE, which is headquartered in Costa Mesa and has a flagship store at Fashion Island. She's also held marketing positions at YouTube, Conde Nast, Goop, and Frame. In addition, she's the founder of Beautiful Ideas Co., which offers brand strategy and marketing services. Thank you so much for being here today, Sofia Sheth.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. I'm thrilled to be here.
Of course. Okay, so I'm sure you get this all the time now, but I've been watching the new season of Emily in Paris, which is all about like marketing and stuff. And I know for sure glamorizes it, but I guess I didn't truly realize how creative of a job it really is. So I've been so excited to get to talk with you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I consider myself so lucky to be able to be engaged in a career where I'm flexing creativity, whether it's through language, through imagery, through strategy. I feel super blessed to be doing what I do.
Yeah. Well, so a lot of the companies that I mentioned that you worked for were based in New York, but where did you grow up?
I grew up in Queens, New York originally.
Wow.
East Coast based, and I've been here on the West Coast for 8 years now.
Oh my gosh. What brought you out here?
Yeah, truly, especially working at YouTube and in entertainment. I did a lot of New York, LA travel, and just being a native New Yorker, anytime I would visit LA, it felt like vacation. And so now being here, even like more deeply embedded in SoCal, it really has held true. I, did the thing where I adopted the dog and learning to surf and really just embracing all of the lifestyle.
Oh, I love that. So you graduated from New York University with a BA in individualized study and media studies, and then you interned at NBC Universal Media, which sounds so cool. How did you get into that internship, and what was your role there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that experience because it gives me the opportunity to talk about the Emma Bowen Foundation, which is how I became a part of that internship program. And that foundation is really committed to really leveling access and the playing field for minorities and people of color in the media, entertainment, and tech spaces. And so providing paid internships to students throughout the full duration of their college careers at places like ABC, NBC, Fox News, Hearst Publications. It really is extraordinary. And I attribute so much of my entry point into my career through that organization, actually.
That sounds incredible. What an amazing foundation.
Yeah, I adore what they're about.
So what were you doing for the internship? What was your position?
Oh, yeah. So because we kind of rotated every summer, I got to try different teams within NBC, which also great experience. So starting at the Today Show, then working in their New York News Bureau, really kind of anything from celebrity press tours and kind of having the mic and getting the footage for news broadcast that evening, to like man on the street type interviews that would go on NBC.com. They were testing digital content, so very experimental time, to producing, editing, pulling up archive footage, logging tapes. I mean, really just doing it all, and highly recommend any kind of experience like that where you can really watch professionals doing the work that you might want to be doing in your career.
What a fun internship. That sounds so cool. And it sounds like maybe also like pushed you outside of your comfort zone a bit. Because like going out to people on the streets, interviewing them, that would be so intimidating, especially when you're, young and starting out.
Yeah. And what I love too is, no day was the same, never a dull moment. And I think like those types of qualities I've really been able to carry with me throughout. I feel grateful for that experience as well.
That's awesome. So in 2011, you started working at YouTube, where you helped creators grow and sustain an audience and revenue. I know next to nothing truly about what it takes to really do that. Do you have any advice on growing an audience on YouTube based on what you were helping people with?
Yeah, I mean, really it came down to, I think, some core fundamentals. And some of these feel super basic, but I think are so important. So first and foremost, it's a consistent content strategy. What can people expect from you and at what cadence, whether it's, a weekly live Q&A, a daily vlog, really kind of honing in on what is my programming schedule is first and foremost. Then it's really leaning on cross-channel marketing. So, I always like to say you can't assume that your audience knows anything about you. I would really kind of consider that you're almost introducing yourself net new each time. And so leveraging channels like Instagram and Twitter and I was going to say YouTube, but we're talking about YouTube, but really thinking about like the full breadth of your platforms and using those to promote the content you're producing. And then really it's audience engagement. And I think that's so key, not only at YouTube, but in brand strategy today, and with the popularity of social and just kind of changing the way I think consumers expect to engage with brands today, engaging in that two-way dialogue, embracing your audience and integrating them into your content, always finding ways to surprise and delight. How can you identify your core, I don't want to use the word followers, but audience and members of your community. And how do you bring them into the fold more and more? Because I think that helps create momentum as well. And so much about this type of growth is that organic word of mouth and earned marketing value.
Yeah. God, so how did you get into YouTube? What brought you there?
Oh, that's such a good question. I was, funny enough, after I graduated, I worked at a law firm for a couple of years and I was pursuing, potentially law school and going that route. But truly, I think my passion wasn't there. The creativity, to your point, I wasn't finding it in working at a big corporate law firm. And so I just started applying to jobs and I started thinking about, what would a dream role look like? For me, fashion was always the place that I wanted to occupy. It felt really foreign. It felt like something that I kind of only had access through the pages of magazines. I didn't know anyone who worked at, in fashion. And so funny enough, I applied to a role at Google working on their legal team as a way to learn intellectual property, because someone who I met who practiced fashion law told me, well, there's so many young women like you who want to try to work in this space, learn IP and learn it really well. So kind of starting from, unraveling the thread that way took me to Google. I applied to their legal department as an administrative assistant. Their recruitment team, I think, is just so intentional and thoughtful in their hiring that they looked at my background and my education experience, and they actually rerouted me and suggested, hey, we have this role at YouTube. And it was sort of this very scrappy, brand new role. It was the first hire they had just acquired a company called YouTube Next Lab, or rebranded as YouTube Next Lab. And I was meant to be sort of the first hire to help coordinate a lot of what was going on there. And so that really is what took me back into that more creative space. I'm so grateful for it. I think, having that experience and then conversations with folks who sort of were, again, doing the work that I wanted to be doing is ultimately how I got there. And it certainly wasn't like I had a plan and a map and then I checked the boxes. It really was this exploration.
Wow. I love that they looked at your resume and led you towards another position. That's so cool.
Agreed. I feel very lucky for that also. Yeah.
And so a few years later, you eventually got to work in the fashion space for Conde Nast as the Associate Director of Digital Marketing. And you worked with Vogue, GQ, Vanity Fair, and more. Freaking dream. How was this role different from what you were doing at YouTube?
Yeah, this role was so, I think, uniquely challenging because the remit itself was so unique. It was, how do we take these iconic titles, Vogue, GQ, that you just mentioned, Glamour, Wired.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just, and really all of these verticals. And how do we translate them into short form video content. So it's, we already have the brand equity, we already have the print publication, we have the .com. What we don't have is a YouTube strategy or a short form digital video strategy. And so, it was really ideating, okay, well, what are the programs or the formats that we believe in and we want to test into? Kind of what's the first slate of programming look like? How do we evaluate success as we're rolling out all of this new content? So things like audience development scorecards. But it was incredible. We did work like Vogue 73 Questions series launching.
Oh my gosh.
It's iconic. Getting to work with Anna Wintour on one of those episodes, I think was incredible. But yeah, it really was a great creative playground in that we were starting from the brand lens, understanding, what are each of these titles about fundamentally? And then within this exciting YouTube ecosystem, how do we kind of make it work? And how do we jump in? And, for Glamour, we worked with some beauty creators like Candy Johnson, who was sort of up and coming and emerging at the time. And so talent spotting and finding like native beauty creators on the platform, bringing them into the fold. Again, just really, I think a lot of creative ability to ideate, test new things, and break down some historical barriers of things like working with YouTube talent, with print, sort of titles was really exciting.
I love the 73 questions videos. How did that come about?
Yeah, there was a really great a couple of creative producers there who I think had the idea. It was really based on this. We're going to do one shot. How do we what Vogue has that I think arguably like nobody else has is incredible access to the iconic tastemakers of culture, fashion, etc. And so kind of starting from that point of now, how do we take that luxury and that privilege and really expand it open for our audience? I think was the onus of like the one camera uninterrupted shot and let's just make it feel like you're there. And it really, it worked. It did well. And so just replicating it, became another fun exercise.
Yeah, the interviewer is so great too, and so compelling.
Yeah,
were you also behind the skincare videos that they do and the makeup videos that they do?
So some of that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And again, based on what was already working on these channels, is we know that the Get Ready With Me format works. So how do we then take that and do it the Vogue way? And how do we do it the Glamour way, which is also different? So a lot of, I think, lenses to apply.
I'll like be doing my makeup and stuff and be thinking of those videos as if I was like actually on one of them.
100%. I like to live my life like that's
exactly.
It's a music video or it's a YouTube video.
Exactly. It's like a mindfulness moment. So to jump ahead a bit, because I'm so excited to get to talk with you about this role, your time at Goop. So in 2017, you were the VP of Marketing and Growth, and you launched their podcast with the first episode being with Oprah. How iconic. So how did this episode come together? And do you have any memories that you can share from that?
Yeah, that was, another incredible experience. Goop is incredible because they sort of operate across so many business channels. There's content, there's retail, there's event and experience through In Goop Health. They have their own branded products. And so within the content universe, there was the .com and the newsletter and the Netflix series that was sort of being pitched at that time. And so podcast was really something we were thinking through. The chief content officer who I worked with during my time there was just, I think, a very intuitive and natural fit for that kind of long form, in-depth audio-based storytelling. And so there was just a lot of alignment to like, let's translate some of this storytelling especially around more of these esoteric topics, things, that are outside of the realm of, sort of normalized wellness. How do we
Right.
create more awareness and understanding and education around this? And so that was really kind of the origin of launching the podcast. And, what was really great and wonderful about working at Goop is that you've got access to Gwyneth. She was an incredibly, and continues to be an incredibly hands-on executive and leader. And so kind of starting there opened the door to Oprah being just like, who would be our dream guest, who would be incredibly compelling that we could bring in, and that just flew to the top. And I think just working with that team end to end was a dream experience. We got to chart to #1 that week on Apple iTunes, which is great. But it just, has continued to be, I think, a deeply engaging format and a new way for Vogue readers to engage with the brand in a deeper way. And so I think for me, that's maybe the biggest success story around that format, and really sparked my passion for podcasts too.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any memories that you can share of recording that episode?
Oh gosh, I can't say that I was there when we recorded it. I can't speak to it. I'm trying to think if there was anything. No, I just remember truly the team being incredibly buttoned up, and so we really wanted to mirror that. And I just a lot of nervousness and excitement, I think, on our team.
I bet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy to hear too that Gwyneth Paltrow is like hands-on with that brand.
Oh, incredibly so. We were working, I at the time, it was before they had moved into their new space. So it was 2 previous chicken coops in Santa Monica on the same block, and we would go in between. And she was very much present there on a daily basis. And I think, just being in meetings with a leader who was that invested and present was very inspiring for me too.
Yeah, I'm also obsessed with the restaurant. We just got one in Costa Mesa, the Goop. It's so good.
So
it's like my go-to takeout now.
It's so good. And we had a group kitchen in that office, and we would do like test recipes for the cookbooks. So very, very spoiled.
Wow, that's so cool. What a dream job. And then the following year, after you were working at Goop, you started Beautiful Ideas Co. So what inspired you to start your own company? And can you explain the different services that you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, I kind of took a step back in my career and realized that one of the things that I loved most about my experience was that I was able to take on so many challenges, new channels, new platforms, go from brand strategy to sort of like digital and acquisition strategy, more bottom of funnel. And so the ability to wear so many different hats and pivot, and actually have insight and experience into those diverse and very different kind of challenges and activations. It sort of sparked this moment for me around, I love when I'm sitting with a founder or someone who has an incredible idea. It can be a creator, a founder, an executive, someone like Gwyneth who's, it's an influencer and tastemaker, but really kind of understanding what is the vision and then how can I help bring that to life in as lean and manageable of a way as possible. I think a lot of times big ideas can feel really difficult to achieve, but when you break it down into sort of what needs to happen, what's a nice to have, and what's like a next to have, what you have are, specific milestones and roadmaps that you can build into kind of realistically. Mm-hmm. And so I just found it was a really fun way to work with different brands and founders and creators to really, whether it was 3 months or 6 months or a year-long engagement, being able to understand, okay, this is sort of the remit. This is what we're going after. I was very excited too at the time by like moving super quickly. So the energy of all of that was great. But yeah, it really was me taking a step back and looking at what is my experience and what value can that provide? Is there a better way I can sort of put myself in the market to have more of these conversations and drive more of these wins? And yeah, feel again really fortunate to have been able to build up a great book of clients. Folks in New York, LA, and San Francisco tended to be, where I was working, and great, small scale brands to larger brands. It really has run the gamut. And then ultimately went back in house during COVID, which we can talk about. But grateful again to have both of those experiences.
Yeah. So, do you have a particular project that you've worked on that you're proud to share, or anything from Beautiful Ideas Co. that you can talk about?
Brightland is a client that I worked with. Brightland is olive oil and other sort of food-based essentials, and really elevating some of these quote-unquote pantry staples. And so building out the messaging around something like that, I think, was super exciting. Their founder is an incredible brand builder at her core. And so, we, I think, worked on language around living in a golden state, which spoke to the California roots of the business, also alluded to some of the product value props around this elevated olive oil. And so, how do we honor the idea of putting our bodies in a golden state, and how do we merge health and wellness in this new sort of CPG category in a way that feels authentic? And so that was something I think that has executed really beautifully and kind of existed throughout the brand's trajectory. And I love the ways in which we kind of scaled that through referral marketing, through social, through influencer marketing. Another one that comes to mind is a beauty brand that I worked with called Alley-Oop. And that was really focused on how do we build a very fun, playful beauty brand around this idea of multitasking beauty products that you can take on the go. And so, there it was thinking about multi-use product development. So even kind of injecting on that level, but then core brand messaging, look and feel, web UX, and how do we create these, on the go oriented experiences and surprise and delight in our digital experience for the customer. And so that was, again, another kind of sprint engagement, really lean team, touching everything from packaging to web design to brand identity, and ultimately created something really unique and special that didn't exist in market before.
Wow. And Brightland, I've actually seen on social media, so I'm your target audience. But everything is so beautiful. All the photos that they post.
Agree. It's such an elevated aesthetic, and again, such an amazing success story of a D2C brand that was built around a concept, an idea that the founder was passionate about, and now it's really come to life. And it's in Whole Foods and it's everywhere.
Yeah,
so see that.
It's so cool. So as you mentioned, in 2020, you started working with Frame as their head of marketing, and this was your first role as like a fashion brand. What did you learn from your time here, that you were able to take with you to LSPACE?
Yeah, I love that. I loved working at Frame. It's an incredible brand, an incredible team. I love their leadership, product, marketing, all of it. But really, I think what I take away more than anything is the team that we cultivated and kind of nurtured when I was there. And so what was interesting was, prior to me joining the team at Frame, Frame was primarily a wholesale driven brand. And then during the pandemic, their D2C just went through the roof, accelerated very rapidly. And there was kind of a core team in place, but they, I think, required more support, more structure, and more headcount. And so I had the opportunity to come in, really work with the existing team, understand how to best support them and what processes we needed to put in place to help scale this growth that was unplanned, and then identify what's the incremental headcount that we need to bring in to continue to support this business. During the time we relaunched the men's business, so that was, a brand new identity, email customer, social, all of it. And so for me, it was creating a team that was that collaborative and high performing was my number one insight takeaway, because I think it was so key to our success there. I think without that team being so able to work well together and work efficiently, effectively, and collaboratively, I don't think we would have been able to achieve a lot of the goals and the things that we did achieve. And so a lot of those colleagues are some of my closest friends, mentors, mentees to this day. And that's really what I like to take with me is how do I spend more time in each day listening and learning about the people I'm working with? How can I connect more with them on that personal level? Because I think that really helped create the strength of the team and being able to play into and support our in-house strengths and maybe areas that required more support, really understanding folks on that human level, building that trust, especially during COVID. I should mention I joined my team remotely. And so our first 6 months of working together was all via Zoom, and going into the office for the first time, we were really meeting each other. And so again, I think as a team that was just, so many special things happened. And I attribute so much of that to just the human quality of the folks we were working with and the way we were able to show up and support that in one another. And it sounds like a softer kind of insight, but it really, I think, has been fundamental to me and something I'll continue to carry and prioritize. I think that it's true leadership is bringing those things to light as a priority.
Definitely. You sound like an incredible leader and someone that's amazing to work for. And so then in this year, which congratulations, by the way, you became the head of marketing for LSPACE, and you also helped launch the flagship at Fashion Island. How did you come into this role?
Yes. So exciting. And it really has been an amazing 6 months so far. I actually had taken about a year hiatus back in 2023. My brother passed away. And so it was just, again, I feel very privileged and grateful to have had the opportunity to really, commit to that journey. And pause professionally. But, come 2024, I was feeling excited and ready to jump back into something energetically. I was hungry to be back and doing marketing and looking at the campaigns and wanting to be part of everything that I was seeing as a consumer. And so as I started having these conversations, LSPACE felt just so compelling to me because it had all of the things that I really look for when I'm evaluating, a client or a role, in that it had incredible product. They're female founded in their roots, and they've always been committed to a product market fit. It's how to swim is a pain point for most women, as is denim at frame. These are similar in that way. And from a female perspective and with a female design team, how do we create fits that flatter as many bodies as possible? And so, with that being the core, the brand has almost 20 plus years of positive customer review experience to work off of. And so I think as a marketer, that is just, what better scenario can you inherit or step into is you've got folks who absolutely love the product. And that is the number one thing that I receive when I say I work at LSPACE is, oh, I love their fit. Oh, I love how I look in this dress, which a lot of folks don't know that we do ready to wear. We've launched active last year as well. So that ingredient was there. I think the creative was there. I'm looking at our assets, our imagery, and it is so elevated. It's so strong. It's compelling. It's best in category. And really what was sort of missing or needed is, now how do we create the storytelling to help support this? How do we amplify our in-market awareness, how do we tighten the brand story? And, these were things that just hadn't been done prior. And so it was really a matter of like, what are these balls we can pick up, and who can help us do that? So again, I feel so lucky in that it's great product. It's, great retail distribution, passionate customers, with this core footprint here based in California. So I can really get to see and understand the roots of the brand. It really felt like something I could dive into, pun maybe intended. There. But, it really has been incredible. There's a team that has existed here. And so kind of just spending a lot of time ingesting, listening, understanding. And now I'm kind of in the mode of, okay, now what are our 2025 opportunities? What is the 5-year roadmap? And how do we, again, just continue to support this core team to help us get there?
Oh, I'm so excited to see what you do with it. Well, can you talk a little bit about the flagship location? Why was Fashion Island chosen for this?
Yes. And Fashion Island, I think, has been such a strong fit. I think everyone is feeling really thrilled with our performance there. I mean, I think Fashion Island is, in its core, a lot of what LSPACE is about, which is, the experience of shopping there is almost like a resort experience. Yeah. There's a lot of creativity and energy and excitement around events and experience, and, really that high touch, customer relationship. We're working right now on Style Week OC in October, and working with the Newport Beach Film Festival, and doing some great activations with our store and Fashion Island team. And so that kind of energy, I think, always having different events and pop-ups happening in our space is really how we like to serve our customer. So that made a lot of sense. I think too, LSPACE at its core is an Orange County, based brand. And that's what I run into when I'm speaking with a lot of folks is, we love that you're an Orange County brand. We are an Orange County brand. And so kind of tapping into that natural community felt really appropriate for us. Yeah. And then, as we're looking about expansion, it's understanding, well, where are our kind of core customers already? Where do they exist? And we're seeing, penetration in LA, New York, Florida, Texas. And now how do we pop up or create retail experiences so we can continue to super serve that clientele? And then I think with that drive newness. So that's kind of where we are now. Like I said, Fashion Island has been phenomenal. We did a full renovation of that space so that we can really bring that beach lifestyle aesthetic to life. I love going to our store just to, again, like immerse myself into the brand. And that's kind of how we see it. It's an extension of our brand identity and experience.
Amazing. Is there anything coming up that listeners should keep an eye out for in LSPACE, or any of your personal brands personal projects for Beautiful Ideas Co.?
Yeah, I love that question. I think for LSPACE, a lot of exciting things on the horizon. I've mentioned we launched activewear last year, and our active collection drops. We have one actually next week that I am over the moon excited for. It is just so strong. And I think our active continues to be really well received by both celebrity and influencer clientele as we're seeding it out. So it's great to see that. So I'm very excited about activewear for us in the next year. Really excited to activate Holiday. Holiday, obviously, a swim rooted brand. And so thinking about gift guide and it's something that we have slowly integrated as our customer has kind of had that desire from us. So I think, with Fashion Island and everything they're planning for holiday, I'm really excited to try to show up in the community in a big way for holiday. And then just looking to 2025, I think it is really kind of firming up our go-to-market messaging and then blowing it out. So, let's really tighten the language and the way that we speak to our consumer and help her understand our core value proposition. And once I think we feel really good about where that's landed, I think that's when I would anticipate we'll see LSPACE on podcast marketing and out of home marketing and kind of activating those new channels for us. That's something I'm really excited about.
That's so exciting. Well, we're coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So, what is the best advice that you received when you were first starting out?
Oh, that's so good. It's probably, this may feel a little generic, but it is the best advice that the relationships that you cultivate in your career, they really will, in the same way in our personal lives. I think I've started to learn that it's all about the seeds we plant, and taking that same approach. And it's very, I think, easy to forget when you're early in your career and you're hungry. And for me, I wanted to just go and achieve. But sort of taking the time to invest in your relationships, whether it's a mentor and just staying very present and engaged. A great example, my previous manager at Conde Nast, incredibly strong leader and teacher. Years later, she had an opening. She used to teach a course at UCLA's extension program in marketing, and she recommended me to teach the class. So it unlocked a dream for me that I never thought I would achieve, and that was solely through the strength of that relationship.
What? So are you still teaching there, or did you?
Not anymore. And I'd love to pick that ball back up because honestly, working with students, that was the hardest thing I've done. It was harder than any job I've ever had.
Really?
I was most stressed out when I was teaching that. I really was.
Yeah. I have a friend who used to teach at Chapman, and she said the same thing. So I totally get it.
It's very rewarding.
Yeah. What have you learned in terms of how to navigate challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are so many that you will navigate, unfortunately. I think it really comes down to character and integrity. And if you can be transparent and honest and accountable to the people who both you report to, but the folks who are reporting into you, I think that's just been, for me, the way we're able to then hold hands and kind of get through the thing. I think it really is that simple.
Yeah. And then lastly, what characteristics do you feel have helped you succeed?
I love that. The one that's most surprising for me is vulnerability. And I think when I go back to Frame and COVID and leading a team remotely, and even LSPACE and everything since, I think too, in the passing of my brother and how that I envision defining the next phase of my career, it really comes down to we are all human beings that are navigating a human experience. We have professional ambitions, desires, and how do we support one another in achieving those things? How do we create spaces where people feel comfortable and empowered showing up as their authentic self every day? I think work like marketing and any creative work requires a lot of confidence and trust. And so, a lot of times it's about me getting out of the way so that folks can shine and show up and do their best work. And so I'm constantly thinking, how do I create more of that?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I love talking with you. And I am so excited to tell my friends that I met the person behind 73 questions.
Oh my gosh. Well, one of the many, please.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Likewise. This was really a joy. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope to chat soon.
Yes, definitely.